Guys?
Yes, Terry.
Thank you, Dad.
Uncle Terry!
And
No, Uncle Terry.
We're not doing Uncle Terry
an
anymore?
A+ for your acting skills there. What's the one thing you want to see in D&D?
What do you mean by that?
What's the one thing?
There's a lot of
What's
things
the
I want
one
to see
thing
in
you think
D&D.
is missing from Dungeons and Dragons?
I think we've lost the concept of the dungeon. I think that we don't go into subterranean torture chambers anymore to find loot bodies, and find old undead things. Like it just isn't there. It's caves and caverns. It's natural. It's sewer systems. It's underground tunnels. But I don't think. When was the last time you walked into the dungeon, the long abandoned dungeon beneath the decrepit fort? We just don't see a lot of that
For
anymore.
me, it's the discovery of the dungeon that I really miss. Like, I remember having two notebooks beside my character sheet. My first notebook was all my loots, all my little like story notes I was taking. My other one was a hex grid, or not a hex grid. It was a grid sheet paper where I was drawing out the map as the DM, was describing it to us, and we had to find our way through the map, and then this sense of getting lost inside of this dungeon and not knowing our way out.
Yeah, I feel like survival is really not as big a thing.
No, the survival and the exploration pillar, as we've claimed it or titled it, is lacking. I want to see that more supported. I want to have that exploration further fleshed out. That's
I feel like there's a lot of stuff out there for role playing now in 5th edition. They've done a great job. They've given us backgrounds as a third part of building characters.
And combat is ironed out and brilliant. It's smooth. Even compared to previous editions, it is heads and shoulders above everything else. Exploration is wanting.
It's still just survival checks. Mm-hmm. And do you have enough rations?
Yeah. And then after a while, you stop asking.
Yeah. And then, even if you're tracking encumbrance, who's really throwing a shit ton of log?
I'm kind of curious. Like, I know I haven't sat at a table that tracks encumbrance in years. Have you guys ever in a D&D game tracked encumbrance seriously?
I've never tracked it.
I have. But it was 3.5 when you had ounces listed. It wasn't just how many pounds. It was ounces.
Has the weight of gold ever been an issue?
Yes. That was a massive issue in early D&D.
Because I kind of agree with that, but I would cap it at, look, you can carry a maximum of 200 gold pieces on your person, because you carrying 6,392 is ridiculous.
And it actually brought a part of the game in where you had to have someone looking after your hoard if you had thousands upon thousands of gold.
Yeah.
There had to be money changers, so if you walk in with 20,000 silver, well, how am I going to change this into
that's why
2,000 gold?
That's why it's not a single coin. It's 4 or 5 different, depending on whose table you're sitting at, right? Look, I miss that shit. I think that's seriously lacking in D&D now.
Yeah.
However, at some point it becomes granular. I remember the point, Terry, where your eyes glazed over because I'm like, all right, so there are these trade routes, and you're like, I don't care. I just don't care anymore. And at some point, your level of detail, everyone around the table has to be on the same page as the level of detail that you're in, right? So, otherwise you're going to...
And there has to be a good system, because it's just like sitting there across the table and being like, well, you've got 17 strength, so that means your max load is this. You are clearly carrying 4 pounds over that max load, like every session. Like, it adds a lot to the DM. I need to see a different system. And even exploration, and like, I look at... exploring Chult and the Tomb of Annihilation series, where you are exploring a wild jungle through a hex grid. That system didn't quite work. It was tiresome and arduous. I'd like to see something a little bit smoother, as refined as combat and as role-playing.
I maybe think that, going off what you're saying, Dan, is that it's not necessarily about weight for me, but like mass. Like, okay, look, I'm not going to count all of the weight, but the fact that you have 5 great axes strapped to your back, 6,000 gold pieces, a bag of holding, and you insist on carrying the goblin NPC and all that, it just gets to a point where it's just, how are you walking around? How are you walking through the door? Or crawling through the tunnel?
This is why you had retainers, and you had NPCs that you would hire to stay with the mules, and you had Sherpas, and we don't have that anymore. Right?
You walk into a dungeon and everyone goes, so what are we doing with the horses? They'll be fine when we come back out.
Yeah.
And then you take 3 breaks, like long rests inside the cave, and you're really hoping that the stump you tied them to is close to some grass or something for them to eat.
Yeah, you end up being in there for 4 days or something. You come back, oh, they're not died.
And because the DM has allowed you to name them, and you guys have spent 40 gold on brushes for your horses, the jewel-encrusted brushes, the Dungeon Master is not going to sit there and say, I'm sorry, your mounts are gone. He's going to, because that's not fun.
Yeah.
Right? And I missed that. I think that you're right.
I'm just going to pull a Witcher and name every single horse the exact same thing. Like, you killed my horse. No, you killed Galahad. Okay, well, the next one, it's going to be Galahad. I don't care if he looks different. He's just Galahad.
Our goblin sidekick did that with chickens. Yeah, there's Mr. Box and then Mr. Box 2. And
No, what was the one that we never saw?
But I wouldn't number them.
Mr. Box 3?
Yeah, no. You got the Mr. Box 6 and then Mr. Box 8. What happened to 7? I don't want to talk about
We don't
it.
talk about Yeah. Oh, man. For me, I think what's missing from D&D is rewarding failure much more. And to put it on a simple scale, like, do you remember, like, Crash Bandicoot? Where it's like, obviously, you were trying to jump across a bridge and it shouldn't fall down because you die. And then sometimes it'd fall down, you fall, but you just end up in a secret area. Yeah. And you're like, oh, that was unexpected. Like, do you always have to die if the bridge collapses? What about if you land in the river and that takes you off to something somewhere else? And
that is my favorite mechanic to spring on a party that hasn't seen it before, is the swallowed effect. Because you're swallowed, so you're restrained, and you're disadvantaged in your attacks, but you're inside a stomach, and you can still hit.
Yeah.
And you're actually going to do some real freaking damage. I'll drop the AC on this significantly, because you're in a fucking stomach.
Yeah, are you able to thrust forwards?
So you're taking like 1d4 acid damage around, because that stacks with 5th edition, but you're also doing 25 damage every round from inside, and you can't take any more damage than that.
Yeah. One of my favorite moments
from found a dagger, because the last guy who got swallowed is also in there. So.
Yeah.
And it's just not digested yet. Yeah. Now, one of my favorite moments from, like, the second Guardian of the Galaxy movie is Drax just destroying the inside of the beast in the opening scene.
Yeah, but that's one of those things that is a reward for failure, like Terry says.
Yeah.
Right? Like you get swallowed, and you're like, oh my god, am I dead? Like, no, you're inside a stomach.
You're just inside.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We're basing it now on asphyxiation rules, which are ridiculous in 5th edition. So you have the next 25 minutes in there to just, because you have a con of 3.
Love it. I love it.
Welcome to It's a Mimic with your DMs, Adam, Dan, and Terry.
Welcome to another episode of the It's a Mimic podcast, the roundtable Dungeons and Dragons discussion where you never know what you're going to get. I am Terry. With me, as always, is Dan and Adam, and today we're talking about party politics.
Ooh.
Right?
Nice light subject.
Yeah. It might get a little deep. I feel like we're getting better at this type of stuff all the time. I used to be not so good at it, but I feel like I'm a little bit better now. Yeah. So what I want to do, guys, is to kick it off with the first topic. I want to talk about how to get players to take initiative, to communicate better, and how to make them feel comfortable. So a couple of things that maybe we want to talk about is how can we cater the campaign to make everybody happy?
You can't. Is my opinion. But we got to roll
Topic 2.
All right, roll initiative.
1, 2, 3.
15.
Oh, Dan got a natural 20.
That's a
I got
natural
a
20.
5, so I'll go last. Isn't the tradition usually the DM goes first? Isn't that?
But the dice are
dice,
cruel masters.
Dice rule all.
Have decided that I will start those off. So you can't make everybody happy all the time, and you should not expect or I would even say attempt to make everybody happy at all times. But you really need to go for the as happy as possible, like the highest general feeling, right? Because there's going to be times when someone is not happy with something outside of the table that they're bringing to the table, and we're human. You can't avoid that, right? And we're talking this specifically in the middle of a campaign. You've already done your session 0 that we've talked about last year. You've already kind of set the base ground rules. So if it happens where someone is, unhappy with something from either bringing it from outside of the table to the table or something happening at the table in the moment, you as the DM and you as the player, honestly should just be, you have to be different with every single person around the table. So there's no real surefire way to do this, but, you gotta work and be open and communicative with the table. And if the DM sets the culture of that, if other players around the table set the culture of that, other people will pick it up. That's my answer specifically to that question of, can you make everybody happy? I don't think you can, and you shouldn't expect to. So don't, right? But don't be directly antagonistic either. Yeah. Either as a player or as a DM. Give players their time to shine. Remember, you are all players in a narrative story, but none of you are the main protagonist. You're all a supporting cast of each other.
Yeah.
So there are going to be times in this narrative where your half-orc barbarian is not part of this social encounter. So shut up and pay attention.
Yeah. Avoid then I walk in. No, you don't.
Yeah,
You're
right.
30 feet away around two corners. You have no idea what's going on.
Exactly. And you might have a tidbit of knowledge to chip in. Guess what? A great time to bring that knowledge in is when the people who were involved in that role-playing situation, in that combat situation, then meet up with the party later, because of course you've split the party.
Yeah.
But you meet up later and they tell you what happens, and at that point, that's a great point to bring it in.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure. Adam?
Oh, you're wrong. How many times do I say that, Dan? You just like, everyone, I wish you could see the look on Dan's face, like, fuck, Adam, goddamn, here we go again. No, seriously though, what you say is right. You can't make everybody happy all the time. However, I also believe that there's a social structure and a social contract involved here. Everybody showed up for the same reason. That reason is usually, you can feel it in the room. Like, it's understood by people that this is a smash it up campaign, or this is a stealth campaign, or political intrigue, or whatnot. So cater to it, even though you, the DM, just saw Blade Runner and you want to do a really gnarly, deep look at a dark, dystopian future. No, man, everybody showed up to be fucking pirates.
Yeah.
Be pirates. That's what you agreed to. That's how you keep everybody around the table happy. And during the session and before the session and immediately after the session, these are not the times to bring up the, hey, so I'm not happy with this. That's what a Facebook message or a text message or a cup of coffee is for, right? Say, hey, you know what? I'm not digging it. What can I do different? Keeping everybody on the same page. Like, we know why we got together. And this is why I believe that DMs need to be foreshadowing all the time from a meta perspective. I don't think meta knowledge is a bad thing. If you turn to the players, I saw Dan getting disillusioned with the current campaign, and I said, Dan, I know you don't give a shit about spoilers. Do you want to know why I'm going so hard and gritty and dark? And he said, yes. And I said, I will tell you why. I stacked the deck against you. I put 7 incredibly powerful monsters that you cannot defeat directly in front of you, and lined them all up. 8, actually, I guess. And why you haven't gotten a solid win in 6 months. And everything that you do is 1 step forward, 2 steps back, and there's a reason why. Do you want to know what it is, or do you want to wait until the end of the campaign to see the big reveal? He said, tell me now. So I did. And he's happier for it. I'm not going to spoil it in case the others are going to listen to this, but I kind of ripped the curtain back and I said, here it is. And did it make you, like, it restored your faith in the campaign a little bit, and I think that you're going to come back with...
It gave me something to look forward to. Yes, it restored my faith in the campaign a little bit. I wouldn't say my faith was necessarily gone, but we agreed when we sat down for this campaign, just as an example, for a dark, gritty, like, gang warfare campaign. And we sat down, and even at the beginning, we were like, this will take 6 months, and then we'll be back to the previous story that we've kind of put on pause. We're a year and a half in, 2 years in, of this 6-month campaign. Like, there came a point where I'm just like, this was only supposed to be 6 months. We're off the rails.
Yep.
Right? And it just got...
Sorry, I know we're all sick right now.
And it just got weightier and weightier and weightier, and the character I was playing, even if the situation could technically be called a win, definitely did not walk away from that situation as a win. He was usually the one carrying a lot of that weight. So, I was feeling it. And you opening up the doors, the curtains, and giving me a view in the end gave me something to look forward to. But that's just the kind of person I am. I'm the kind of person, I don't care about spoilers in the slightest.
Right? But that's just the thing is, where I know that Charlie's sitting at the table, is not going to want to know any spoilers. He doesn't want anything. As a matter of fact, he doesn't really like to know the names of NPCs before he's met them, even if the rest of you have.
Yeah.
Right? So
I dig that because I don't like spoilers either.
yeah. And I'm the same way. I don't like it. But Dan, I think, was feeling the weight of it. So I haven't changed anything in the game around the table, and on the day of itself, we're running it as normal. But I can see the look in Dan's eyes. I can see the shoulders slumping, going, oh shit, here's another failure. Right? I'm like, okay, look, let's talk this out. You're not having fun because I, as a DM, it's my job to listen to everyone else. It's not my job to content create. Mm-hmm. That's what Wizards does when they produce a module. If you take that on in homebrew, good for you, but it's not your job. Your job is to facilitate what other people are doing. You need to listen. And by listen, I mean observe in all aspects, right? So you need to check out the body language. You need to be able to check out their attention span, right? How often are they canceling on a session? If they've canceled 2 out of the last 6 weeks, they're not invested. I've got that going on in my Tuesday group right now. Mm-hmm. I've got one person that's canceled twice in the last 3. I'm like, you're not invested, and that's okay. I'm not going to give you the heavy stuff. We'll keep it light and fluffy, and maybe if you're having more fun, you'll come back more often.
Yeah.
And that's just how it's got to be, right? And so, you're right. You can't do a single thing. You can't expect a single act to keep everybody happy all of the time. So I say, do many acts to keep everybody happy. Juggle.
Yeah.
Right? And that's my answer is you have to give everyone a fair amount of time. If you are playing with your significant other, how much time are you putting into their storyline, into their reactions? How well do you know their mentality? Yeah. Compare that against everybody else's and raise those people up to that level of familiarity as far as are they enjoying the game?
I think a good tip for everybody, especially, I know we're going to be talking about engagement later, but along this track of trying to stay involved, trying to stay happy with the campaign, having something to look forward to, make sure you're giving your characters a list of dreams, hopes, and those things. Literally a point form list of 5 things that your character's gunning for. If you do that in any given social situation, you can sit back and ask yourself, where does this social situation line up in attaining one of my 5 wants?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but I think that we should have 2. It should be the positive and the
negative as well.
And the negative. Here are the things
in the spirit of fair play. Yeah.
Here are the things that I don't want. And it can be as much like, I hate orcs and I want to kill orcs. That's a positive. The I don't want is I don't want to be stuck in confined spaces. That freaks me out.
I'm sick to death of cultists.
Right, yeah. So, because you can be going after all the, hey, I want to kill dragons, but then you got to go through a dragon cult, now you're annoyed. Yeah. Right? So, I think you should have
There should be a little bit of this, because I know if you're playing a more tactics-driven campaign, which a lot of tables do, and my Friday group is one of those, one of the ways I stay engaged is... And mindful of what my character's desires are is by having this little bit of a list, this list built out, so that when I'm dealing with my friends around the table who are just playing this statistic block, and I'm applying this statistic block against that statistic block, and that is their entire level of desire in the game, and that's fine. That's what they're at the table for. It's not what I'm at the table for. I know that by having these lists, I could reference them when I'm falling into the culture of some of the table where it's just fight after fight after fight after fight after fight. I want to bring a little bit of that in, and it gives me something a little bit more to look forward to. That's not putting it on necessarily other players. I know the DM is open to it because I've talked to him about it. So I could sit there and be like, hey, I want to take care of this for a moment. And the guy who's all about combat takes a sip, leans back a bit and observes. And when the next combat pops in, he leans back forward and goes back to it.
I think what you guys are saying, just for my answer here, is yes, you need the session 0 to lay out your format, lay out your theme, lay out your social contract, but you also need to be able to adjust along the way.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what Dan was just saying. You can't stick to that plan. No plan survives contact with the players, right? You can't stick to that plan always. You may need to adjust. What I like that, Adam, you do very well is you give players their own individual challenges, their own individual rewards, their own individual little side quests. One of my favorite ones you've done is what Justin in your Tuesday group does with the herbs. The random herbs.
Yeah.
So funny, man. Just for a little bit of comic relief. And I love throwing a little bit of chaos in there.
So
I love that.
So the thing is that he found an herbalist's garden. And it was a magic garden. So all of these are spell components and he doesn't know what they do. So he plucked 23 of them and just kind of like raided the garden and stuffed it in a pouch. And every once in a while he just pulls one out and hands it to someone and says, "This will make you feel better." And we have no idea what spell effect is on that. And I've just grabbed spells out of the player's handbook. So some of them are like web or light or fireball, right? And you have no idea how this works, but eat it and it will be cast upon you or near you, and we're going to see what happens. And then we roll
That's
in
amazing.
on
Absolute
a D100
chaos.
table. And yeah, he has swayed the entire course of battle, but he has also managed to make social encounters appear out of nowhere just by getting a little bit bored with things. And he goes, "You know what? It's time for a root." And he reaches in, he pulls it out, and he rolls on a D100 table. And actually, what you pulled out was not a root; it was a thistle. And if you can soften it in your mouth, the prickly bits, they'll actually pierce your tongue a little bit. And when the juices mix with your blood, there's this new thing that happens. And then I describe the spell without naming it and wait for them to figure out what happens. And then chaos ensues. Yeah.
And then a bullywug chief goes into a trance that we have no idea.
Oh, yeah. Astral projection on the bullywug chief. And
Seeing something.
his
some
eyes
sort of
just
divine-
rolled back, then turned into starscapes. And he went,
We're going to break out of it. So there's no communicating with him, but we got to go. So he's over the back of a donkey or something. We're trying to make our way. No idea what he's seen. He's seen something.
and then he got killed by Santa Claus.
So we never found out.
Yeah.
So we never
That's
found out.
amazing.
Absolute chaos. But the point was that was adjusting to what works for that player, and it seems to work for everybody else as well in that short amount of time. But yeah, you may have somebody more tactically based, and even that group I've only been playing with for a few weeks. But we had one session where I was like, I just want to fucking kill something. Somebody else said that, and so we just kind of made that happen along the way. But yeah,
And that's what I mean about like keeping communication open, right? If you all come to the table after everyone's had a hard week, everyone's going to have a hard week after Christmas because it's dealing with family, dealing with in-laws, or whatever it is.
Hey, can we have a holiday where we don't see family? Can we have the me day?
the purge.
No, that's not what I meant. But I'm listening.
And we said don't see family.
I love the purge.
Nah. But, like, you keep that communication open. Everyone comes to the table after having a stressful week, and they're like, listen, I know we have a big roleplay thing. Kind of, that's where the story's heading. All of us just want to just...
It's time.
vent.
It's time to stumble upon the goblins
Yeah,
fighting.
not so random encounters.
Yeah, not so random encounters is a great way to put it. Yes.
Yeah. How do we, staying on that same vein, we can roll again if you like, but same topic, just a different question on it. How do we balance the pillars?
Oh, you're feeling the room.
It's the same. Well, okay, it isn't the same answer. Let's roll so we can
Sure.
argue this out.
Oh, I got 14 this time, Adam got 13, Dan got 12. Wow.
Wow, shit. Okay. Well, Terry, you're up first.
Okay.
We're using all of our above 10 rolls right now.
I think how you balance pillars correctly, or not, rather not eliminate a pillar altogether, is that no matter what kind of pillar you're doing, you're making it interactive for everybody. Because I think it's either one of the first ones to get brushed over is either exploration, usually, I've noticed, or it's role-playing. But I think that's because people love how interactive the combat pillar is.
Yeah, okay, all right, hold on a sec. How is it okay for people, I'm just sidebar.
That's okay.
How is it okay, and everybody who's listening, go fuck yourself. Because you all sit there and you say, you know what, I'm not getting involved in this role-play encounter, or I'm going to let the rogue or the ranger do this, and I, the paladin, am not going to try to climb that rope because I weigh too much. But you never let anybody step out of combat and say, you know what, I'm not getting involved in this fight.
Yeah.
If somebody does that, you're all mad at them. Fuck you. Let somebody step back.
Yeah.
Back to the regular scheduled program.
No, but I still think that everybody should be pulled in to a situation. Okay, just because you're having a role playing encounter, just because the massive Minotaur paladin has decided that he's not going to get involved, is the unsuspecting gnome shopkeep going to allow that Minotaur paladin to just stand in the corner, or is he going to be like, "Hey, can we talk about that guy over there swinging the bleeding axe?" I think everybody can be pulled in, and I think just like you adjust from the last question, you just need to adjust the percentage of the pillars. But I don't think you should ever, ever, ever eliminate one of them completely.
No, I completely agree. On this,
Thank you.
topic.
No. So I completely agree that you should never eliminate them. I would even, and I've done this when I was a player at my Friday group I've said is very tactical. We had a session where it was kind of informing a mother that her daughter had died. And I was playing a very low charisma
Whose game was this?
Ranger. It was ours.
Oh, okay.
On my Friday group. We had gone through, figured out...
Sounds like an Adam game, doesn't it?
It does. That's why I asked.
But the rest of my party, they're very tactical guys. Like the rest of my friends around that table, most of them are tactical guys. The one guy who is just as big as a role player as I am, either was playing a quiet character or wasn't there that week. I don't quite remember. But it fell to my dwarf, who had low charisma, to inform this heavy subject around the table in a role-playing encounter. And this was way back when I wasn't very comfortable role-playing. I was still in this tactical mindset. And my DM was like, listen, it falls to your character. We need to role-play this out. Because my DM really wanted to encourage that.
Yeah.
And he put me on the spot in the safe space around the table.
Sure.
And said, how does your dwarf do it? And I'm like, well, he's got a 7 charisma. So he's probably going to just walk up and be like, oh, yeah, no, your daughter's totally died in that other, in the woodshed, and she was, like, cut in half. And, like, here's part of her. You can have that if you want, I guess. And the entire group around the table were just, like, jaws on the ground going, you need to stop talking, but none of them were there. So my dwarf just kept going. He's like, I think I have some of her hair here if you want that. And, I mean, I could show you exactly what happened as well. I've got a bucket of goo.
See, all right, at this point, it's on the DM for not stopping you as the player, or as the NPC, and going like, oh my god, you monster.
Eventually, the DM did. And I got a little bit of like, of that role play out of my character just completely failing this social situation. But it was on point. It was in character. So it was a great little moment where my DM pulled me out of my comfort zone in a safe spot to do that with a character where I could do that, even though I had built that character for combat, not for social situations.
Okay. To circle back to answer, look, I like that story, and I want to tag on to that because I'm next. And I want to say, you should occasionally have, yes, the ranger built their character to do the exploration pillar. The rogue wanted to be sneaky. The paladin wanted to be front row center, getting, arrows glancing off his shield, right? But sometimes the wizard should pick up the sword. Sometimes the barbarian needs to be the one in the social encounter. And sometimes it's the bard that has to climb the rope.
Yeah.
Right? That should just happen sometimes. And I do that in my campaigns. How many times do you look around and be like, oh, I wish the fucking rogue was here? Or if I split the party, I'm going to give you guys the wrong skills about a third of the time.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree with that as well.
Right? Because it lets you, if you are going to, Dan, maximize everything you're good at, Dan, and minimize everything you're bad at, Dan. If you're going to game powerfully, Dan, then he literally just pulled a knife.
Continue.
Where did you get that from so quickly?
I'm Canadian. I always have a knife within reach.
Fair point to shave, right?
Yeah.
To open a beer. Anyway, the
5% beer.
If you're going to be a min-maxer, or you're going to focus on, hey, I do combat really well, so I'm going to tank my wisdom, then suffer the consequence of that. Mm-hmm. It's not a bad thing to fail at something, right? And to find out what happens next. Like you were saying about that Crash Bandicoot, right?
Mm-hmm. You need to reward failure. Like, you need to reward the attempt.
So there needs to be a consequence, whether it should be negative most of the time, but sometimes it's going to be positive. Sometimes you're going to break that bad news to the mother, and the mother's going to look up and be like, thank you for being honest with me. I really needed to know all the details. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you're going to be like, oh my God! Yep. And fucking like smack you, right?
Yeah. Sometimes the mother put the hit out on the child for whatever reason, and that's how you find that out. Well,
or maybe the mother just hated the kid, right?
Yeah.
Thank God there's one less mouth.
Did she suffer? She did. Good.
Right? Like, and you as a DM, again, listen and be flexible. If you see the person, and you said you are uncomfortable in this moment, you're trying to work your way through it and be in character, yes, your character failed. The player deserves a reward. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's a balance. Now, my answer before you went into this story was going to be dynamic encounters, which I talk about on the campaign builder. series, which comes out next month, or at the end of this month, actually. So, but I wanted to kind of drop, because here's my answer, dynamic encounters. And by a dynamic encounter, I mean that it needs to go from one thing to another. Social or role-playing into combat, into exploration, or into another role-playing, right? It should never start the way that it finishes. If it starts with combat, it should get interrupted by a landslide. If you're crossing the bridge, you have to stop and answer a riddle to keep going. There should always be that 2 levels to every encounter that you've got going on. That's why I like skill challenges so much, right? Because it's something different. People are going to shine in different ways. And it's the same problem that you're solving twice. In the Christmas episode, Terry, you and I were like, how do we scale this wall? Dan's like, well, you can jump on all the floating furniture. And we're like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to scale the wall. And you're like, I'm just not good at this, so I'm going to pick up a chair and hit things.
Yeah.
Right? And it was a little bit combat because we're taking damage. It's a whole lot of exploration because we're trying to figure out how to do it. But we're also role-playing with each other and hating each other as we're going through this, right? And so it was all three, and we were all engaged as a result.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was just straight, roll an investigation check, do you find the secret passage? That's boring.
Yeah.
Right? Because there are multiple aspects to that encounter. It's the people that say, hey, I need a combat here are thinking two-dimensionally, right? It should be a combat while there's someone else asking you questions, or the ground is shifting, or gravity's a little bit wonky. I mean, maybe not all the time. Maybe you just need to kill a goblin. Mm-hmm. But that's how I balance the pillars. And I say, how long has it been since I've had an environmental aspect to one of my encounters, not an environmental encounter?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Or, yeah, I hear what you're saying. The player who's playing the wizard really wants a puzzle, and the guy who's playing the paladin really wants a combat. That's fine. Here's a situation now, wizard, where you need to solve this puzzle, and paladin, you need to keep him alive. There's also combat happening at the same time.
Exactly. And that's the kind of thing that is going to be not only engaging, but memorable.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And we don't deal with enough of that in our regular campaigns, in my opinion. So I think that Wizards does a really good job at creating those kind of balanced, dynamic encounters. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're going to talk about at length on our campaign builder. Pretty much everything we talk about is a dynamic
encounters, yeah.
And why we build them in certain ways. So.
Perfect. Well, all right, guys. Well, we'll be back with topic 2 in just a moment.
Hey guys, Dan here with Adam. Normally this is a commercial spot, but because year 1 of the It's a Mimic podcast has surpassed all of our expectations because of you guys and the interactions we've had with you guys, this community that's built up around this podcast, we really wanted to reach out to you guys and give you kind of a taste of what year 2 is going to be like.
It's going to be even better. So normally we do lore episodes, and what we're going to do now is we're going to start looking at the popular campaign settings that have been published already for 5th edition.
Our world building series that we've had through year 1 is changing to be a breakdown of the races in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition.
Yep, we're still going to do class breakdowns because we're not even halfway done the subclasses, so each class is going to get even more subclass breakdowns as we go. Some of them will even have 3 or 4 episodes because of how many they have.
Oh yeah. We're going to be changing our coverage of the mob mentalities and changing it to portfolios as we break down some of the big monsters in D&D.
Yep, we're also going to take our Dungeon Mastery episodes, and we're going to focus more on mechanics and the nitty-gritties of the game and how to use them in session.
We are also still going to be continuing with our really popular Dragon Mastery episodes, but instead of covering all the chromatics, now we're covering the metallics and more.
We have more actual plays coming, including sequels to some of the stuff that we've already put out there. We've got more giveaways coming this year, more mailbags, and more random specials. But most importantly, the thing that Dan and I are the most excited about is this second show that we are building.
It's called the Campaign Builder, and it's Adam and I with our 2 completely different DM styles, kind of building inspiration for a campaign from session 0 to the very end. We're going session by session, tier by tier, level by level, encounter by encounter, idea by idea, even if they suck.
Yes, even the bad stuff will be in there so you can hear our foibles and how much that we are just as human as you. We also want your interaction. It's going to be a highly interactive show, and so it's going to be on the same channel. It's going to be an additional episode on the channel every week, so you're going to get to hear our voices twice. We're not apologizing for that.
You're welcome.
But you know where to find us, okay? But your friends don't. We have our website. It's www.itsamimic.com. We're on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and most of the podcast catchers. But the thing that we are lacking more than anything else is the word of mouth. It really helps us. We need reviews on iTunes and every podcast catcher out there, and we need social media tags. So I'm kind of selling my soul to please help us get the word out, because this upcoming year is just going to be more and more. It's bigger and better, and Dan is never going to sleep again.
No, I rarely sleep now as it is. Anyways, guys, thank you again so much for the success of year 1. We're really looking forward to year 2, but we should really take the ball gag off of Terry because he's getting itchy and we need to record.
Yes, that's more excitement than I'm comfortable with.
Okay, team, let's move on to topic 2. Let's talk about pacing. We'll talk about engagement and a little bit more on the specifics of making it fun. The first question I want to ask is, how do we pace the game properly while still keeping it fun for everybody?
Let's roll the dice.
Let's do it. Oh, that was like a trick shot you guys did there.
Oh, you and I have to re-roll, Terry. We both got a 6.
We both rolled a 6. Okay?
Adam got a 2.
Natural 20. You knew,
and a 7.
You knew not to knock that 20.
Yeah.
I saw you thought about it for a second. Okay.
I did not think about it. I was like, I need to not hit it.
Okay. How do we pace the game properly while trying to keep it fun for everybody? Okay. I feel like you must be able to provide the next step. The next step, you need to be able to know how to provide it. However, it shouldn't always be obvious, because that becomes monotonous and kind of railroady. So I touched on before, for example, rewarding failure, the whole idea of Crash Bandicoot. You failed to stay on the bridge, so the bridge collapses and there's something else under there. Maybe that was kind of the intention all along for the DM. This was a 1 mile long rope bridge. Somewhere along the line, the dice were going to fail you. But you can draw this skill challenge out, maybe over 45 minutes of good fun with a little bit of contact and wyverns attacking you from different angles. But maybe really, to get to the next step, you were always supposed to fall off of that bridge. That's kind of very Tomb Raider-esque. But I think as long as you know what the next step is, that will help you pace the game properly, but don't make it so obvious in how you get to the next step.
Mm-hmm. So for me, what I would definitely do is, and the way I prep large form campaigns, I mean, I've got a 12 session campaign coming up in the new year, starting in February, taking us to June, to kind of give Adam a break. I'm kind of taking over this 5-month, 4-month chunk of time. And I know I have X amount of sessions. So I have to fill in whatever content I want to complete and have a full story arc in X amount of sessions.
You should know right now that we are not going into the creepy cave that we decide to go to.
Yes, and I 100% aware of that. But what I like to do, and I did this with Call of Cthulhu, and it just because of timing it ended up biting me in the butt a little bit. But I like to plan out sessions, session by session, and kind of have, here's what the big beat is when we're starting, here's where I want to end, here's the beat where I want to end, right? And that kind of gives me an idea, a goal to work forward to in that session as a DM. So I know if I need to drop an encounter because we're getting close to the end of the session and this beat hasn't happened, I'm gonna have to drop that encounter, right?
Yeah.
And then I will have, depending on the length of the game you have, I will try to prep an encounter an hour. If I'm doing fairly intensive prep, I'll do about an encounter an hour to an hour and a half. Try to have a nice round one and then throw one more extra one just in case.
Yeah.
And have them flexible enough as encounters. Like if I'm throwing an encounter at you that's like, no, you're specifically fighting the 7 goblins on this specific sheet of ice with this specific everything. That could bite me in the butt if you guys go, we're not going near the ice. So I tend to have this flexible, be like, okay, well, those goblins are now going to be in the forest where you guys are going.
Yeah.
Right? And I have to think on my feet a little bit on that one. But I like to think for pacing to have a goal to work to for that session and be aware of the time as we're working up to it.
Yeah.
Also be aware of when people are going on too long for whatever it is. Wrap it up so that we can move on, right? Mm-hmm. If someone's really, really wanting to buy that one short sword or that one spell component and they're just taking forever to get to the point, you as the DM, it's your responsibility to be like, okay, this is taking a bit too long. Here you go. We need to move on. Right? And you have free reign to do that.
I wouldn't be so obtuse about it, though.
No.
It would be the shopkeeper that's like, hey, you want to buy the wand? You've been wasting my time for the last 5 minutes, and I've got other customers in the store, so I'm sorry. This is the final price.
That's a good point, actually. Why is there never other customers in the store?
Right?
In D&D. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because there's a Minotaur with a blood axe standing by the door, and you have Martha walking up to buy like groceries for her 2 super
Why
kids.
did you say that name?
Wait.
Martha, why did you say that name? No, I'm sorry.
No.
Never mind.
No, that's a terrible movie that you should expunge for you.
I love that movie.
Really?
I legitimately like...
Which movie?
Batman
versus Superman.
I legitimately like that movie.
I hated how it was all hinged on the fact that their moms were named the same.
It wasn't, though. It was all about humanizing someone, but people can't look at subtext, so, you know.
As the DM, I'm moving on.
Okay, all right, yeah, thank you, Terry.
But look at your pacing that way, and I'm done.
Okay, all right, so my answer here is, I look at it session by session, kind of. I know kind of what theme, or I always say, where am I going? I want to know by geography what direction I'm heading in, and that's going to indicate what's next. And it's all numbers. It's all math for me, and it really is for everybody. Because what we're doing here is we're playing a complicated game of resource management.
Yeah.
How many spell slots do you have? How many hit points do you have? What's your current charisma score? How many hit points does a bad guy have? How many trail rations do you have? What time of day is it? And when was the last time you had a short rest? Mm-hmm. How long does it take to summon your familiar? And
I'm already stressed. I'm not even
how many feet is it to get to the rope? Right? Like, it's all resource management. We're all sitting there trying to manage numbers over and over and over again. So as a DM, I sit down and I say, okay, when one of the numbers begins to become depleted, whether you have too many levels of exhaustion or not enough rations or too few spell slots, right? Whatever it is, that is when the pacing is going to change, where they can stop reacting normally and they've got to start to scramble. I want about 3 scrambles in a session. Now, I run longer sessions. They go 6 to 8 hours, right? So I want about 1 good scramble every 2 hours where the party doesn't have an answer and they've got to work together to figure it out.
Yeah.
This is taxing on a party, and a lot of times it's exhausting. So I then reward them with a simple and straightforward combat, or simple and straightforward riddle, or, hey, guys, do you just want to take a 5-minute break and eat chips?
Yeah.
Right? Like, whatever it is, recharge the batteries a little bit. There'll be a funny or silly NPC, or the one person that's been in the corner that hasn't been engaged in the last, resource management. Everybody else is low on spell slots, and the rogue is like, what's a spell slot? Right? Then you turn around, you let everybody else sit back in a chair while you engage the rogue.
Yeah.
Right? Well, everyone else is doing a short rest. The rogue doesn't need it. Maybe it's time to deal with that puzzle box. Right? But the other thing that I do wherever I go, there's always the threat of an enemy. Any NPC can be a combat encounter. Every place, every person, and everything has a personal history and a secret. And every location that you go into should be different than the last time you were here. If you've never been here, that's easy. But if you return home again, a couple of things have moved. Maybe that's because you guys hired a butler. Or you just have a little potted plant that's been taking care of your private investigation firm for the last 6 months, right? Things are not going to be the way that it was. It's time to look at this place again. And every time that you enter a room, whether that room is literally a room or the inside of a carriage or a road or a period of time, or you go to the festival on Main Street, anytime that you go into a new environment, you should have to explore it to some degree to reacquaint yourself with it. And this is an old filmmaking technique with the establishing shot first. You do an establishing shot, you do an introduction, you come up with a problem, and sometimes you give them a solution, sometimes you don't. Sometimes that solution needs to be found out 3 scenes later, right? But then you, in order to do that, they leave, and you come with a new establishing shot, a new introduction, and a new problem, right? Or just an extrapolation of the previous problem. And this is how I run pacing.
Can I say that studying cinematography, even just on my own through fun little YouTube videos or whatever it is, has helped my DMing immensely.
I just thought when you said that there, Adam, maybe I should take a look. And it's funny you said that.
Because running establishing shots or understanding color and tone to a scene, even though you are running a Theater of the Mind campaign, understanding lighting helps you immensely just in your description of a room. Understanding what you are kind of targeting to establish what kind of feel around the table. Understanding cinematography helps you so much.
It's not just cinematography though. It's you're right.
Writing.
It is. It's writing. One of the things that Dan and I had a big headbutt over the Call of Cthulhu thing was about the music in the background. And I said, Dan, we need a certain number of tracks. Every time we have a scene change, we need a new musical theme. And Dan said, why? You're still just investigating. And because it's a scene change, we have to establish that. And there are these unwritten rules that people already speak. Now, I've got a background in this shit, right? So, and ultimately, I think Dan was right. Sometimes we could have recycled music. I did spend too many hours looking up free music online and bothering Tyler, who was our music guy, to be like, hey, also we need 6 hours of this, right? But
can you get it to us by now?
Yeah, but there is language that we use when telling stories that people don't realize because it's second nature, right? It's just a part of who we are as people that consume media, that they don't, it's subliminal at this point. And if you can understand what that is as a dungeon master, you can control pacing and you can control engagement and you can control attention. And so a lot of them, and it's simple too. Where are you looking? If you are a DM that is reading the description out of the book, you've lost your players. Maintain eye contact. Yeah. It doesn't matter which one you're looking at, but look them in the eye. Don't look at their dice. Don't look at the mini. Don't point to the map. Look them in the eye. Because while they're looking at the map and they look up at you, they will see that you are engaging them still.
Yeah.
Right? And it's these little things that to just be aware of. Look at public speakers. How do they get people involved? They have the noun they're building to. And everything is leading to that noun, and they don't reveal it right away. But then all of a sudden, they punch it, and it's usually, and that is why I'm talking about blank, whatever it is, right? And they pointed the entire paragraph of their speech at this one noun. You should be pointing your entire store at the gnome bar or shopkeep. You should be pointing the entire tavern at the one mysterious stranger in the corner, or the entire dungeon at the final room, right? Know where you're pointing everything to. Yeah. Because if you know that there's a bottomless pit in the middle of these underground tunnels, that howling wind that is sucking you forward just a little bit, just enough to make your hair blow, is drawing you towards that. And now the players instantly know that this is where the big encounter is going to be, and you didn't have to tell them a fucking thing. Yeah. Right? And I think that we don't sit back and look at the subtle language that we use in writing and whatnot to be able to communicate this stuff. Yeah. So, anyway, there's my long ramble.
That was a quality ramble. That was two very good answers from both of you.
It's a good way to keep people engaged. I just want to build real quick off the maintaining eye contact. I can support that. I'm not going to ruin it. Maintaining eye contact to pull people in. This is the section where we're talking about engagement and talking about pacing and stuff like that. Maintaining eye contact is massively important when you, as a DM or even as a player, are trying to pull players who maybe aren't comfortable with what's going on, because this is just not in their comfort zone.
Yeah, not yet. They're new, or whatever.
Or
they're playing a bard for the first time.
Yeah,
whatever
right.
It is.
They're uncomfortable. They're off.
They've got a
for
crush on
reason.
the DM.
Something, right?
Classic.
Maintaining prolonged eye contact. Wow, I got super Midwestern there.
Eye contact.
Did you say prolonged?
Prolonged eye contact.
Prolapsed eye contact.
Not prolapsed eye contact.
Dad,
That's gross.
Do you want cheese on that?
Under
I assume that's a question which is asked.
Okay, no, continue. Yeah.
Is another one of those things that will really help you as a player and as a DM to draw your friends and those around the table with you back into the game if they're being removed. I also want to say, just for engagement, as much as you can, remove technology from the table.
Oh, please. I fucking hate technology anyway, but...
I know this is unpopular with things like D&D Beyond and whatnot, and personally, I'm okay with D&D Beyond. But if someone is interacting with their tablet or their cell phone or their laptop when they shouldn't be, you as the DM need to call them out on it.
Look, there's one thing that you can do with the piece of paper with notes on it, and it is read it. You are reading. When you've got D&D Beyond, you are clicking tabs and you're finding and you're searching and you're hunting and you're updating and there's just too much going on. Yeah. I know it's the same thing, but there's way more, and that's how apps work. They want you to engage the app. Mm-hmm. We don't want you to engage the app. We want you to engage the table.
So what I would encourage you...
That's their business, right?
Yeah.
At the table,
Look here.
I love D&D Beyond. It's a fantastic resource.
Sorry.
It could print off character sheets. Print them off, come to the table with paper and pens and dice. That's what the game is meant to be played as. And really, if you are hurting for engagement, removing technology from your table is going to help as much as you can. And this is coming from a guy who has a TV in his table to play D&D.
Okay, the last thing that I want to add, because we went off about engagement, you kind of tweaked me a little bit on this. You said eye contact is important, and it is. But new players have a lot of difficulty role-playing because they don't role-play, they tell a story. A new player will have their character, well, Galahad, right? And Galahad goes over there and does this. He does this. He walks over and talks to the gnome. He's going to attack this. Start training your players early to say, I. So, you go and you walk into the bar and you attack that guy, not Galahad. I will use, the NPCs will call people by name, but when I'm talking to the player directly, I only use second person pronouns. Mm-hmm. And that is you and you guys and
call them by their character name as well is a thing to do.
Yeah, I don't bother. I won't talk to Dan at the table unless we're totally stepped back from the table for a moment and having a meta conversation. Well, how's your day, right? But the moment that we're in it, it is Lockie. I need you to go do this.
Yeah.
Not Dan. I need Lachlan to go do this. Right. And that will drag people in. And I personally have been doing that for players now for a couple of years, and I've managed to get every single player except 2 on board of my, like, I think I've had a dozen or so new players in the last couple of years. And so
all the new tables that I've ever run, and I've run a few, that is the way to get them involved. Even if even if they didn't build the character and you're coming to the table, you got a bunch of new players and they are picking character sheets off the table to play that day. They have no idea what they're doing and they're just like, okay, I guess I'm a dwarf cleric. What's that?
I'm going to attack with my wisdom 3.
Yeah.
Right. And they have no idea what they're doing.
Using the trying to pull them personally in through their character is a great way, and I agree with you on that one.
So, anyway, that was my...
I love it. Perfect. Guys, do we have a shout-out?
We do. So, I want to shout out the Raving Gamer. It's at the Raving Gamer. They're a local restaurant and board game shop that is fantastic. It's got a really cool atmosphere to it. They are looking for some help, so I want to encourage everybody to go and take a look at their Instagram page at the Raving Gamer, where they've got a GoFundMe set up. They had some difficulty setting up the shop and are looking for some financial push just to clear the year. So, it's a great atmosphere, great store.
They're one of the great nerd stores, and they serve food. I mean,
it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's great food. And name the DM or the D&D table that doesn't have food at it, right? They're just hitting this problem from the other side, right?
Yeah. So again, that is at the Raving Gamer, one word. Go check them out on Instagram, and if you can, support their GoFundMe.
Awesome. For the Vancouver audience, whereabouts are they?
They're in Langley.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Oh, it is good.
Terry doesn't know where he is right now.
I've been there. And they sell board games as well.
They do, yeah. And it's restaurant quality food. Like
it is
the guy who's...
this is not vending machines.
This isn't vending machines. This isn't bags of Lay's. This is legitimate, really good, high quality restaurant food while you're playing board games and Dungeons and Dragons, and in a great nerd environment. It's a safe place. It's great. They need a little bit of help. So...
Yep. Awesome. All right, chaps. Topic 3. You guys ready for this? Let's talk about problem players and problem DMs. First question I have for you guys is how do we deal with problem players and table issues? You ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3. Let's go. Oh, 19. I'm fucking killing this.
And
I've
look,
got
the
9.
DM is going first.
Dan got 10.
Again.
Yeah. Do you know what I want to talk about with problem players, guys? I'll tell you. Is it took me a little while, considering I work in a very people-heavy industry, and essentially my job every day is talking to people and helping them. It took me a while to realize that there are no problem players. There are personality clashes, and there are just different values. It is not that this player is a problem. It is that they are viewing something differently to everybody else, and they may not even know that that is happening. It is not that they are a problem player. They are not gelling with the other personality types. It could be argued that the other 4 people are wrong to them for whatever reason. And I think what you need to do is get to the bottom of it. And I think what happens is too many DMs try and come up with solutions before understanding why. I get so many people reach out to me on social media like, hey, I have this problem player, I have this situation. How do I handle it? And I say, why are they doing that? I don't know.
I'm going to point people back to our previous episode. Like, our episodes 7, 8, and 9 were all about role-playing. We dealt with problem players there. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I said at the time was the root of the thing is never the thing itself.
Yeah.
The root of the issue is not what the issue is.
Yeah.
Right? The root of the issue is deeper. And I think that's what you're saying, Terry.
Absolutely.
Don't just look at the face value, but go...
because people are saying, what is the way that I fix this? What is the way? If you don't know why that is happening, the best plan in the world will not work because you don't understand why it is happening. And I know this is difficult for some people, and we've all had difficulties with this to different degrees, is you just need to ask this person. You need to say, hey, this has come up. It looks like not everybody's agreeing with this, or not everybody's enjoying this. Why is it that you want to do it this way? Why do you insist on doing this? Why do you want to do it? If you don't know why, you're not going to fix it. So once you found out why, we'll get to the rest of it.
And this should be a thing that is done privately. 1-to-1.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes. And not before or after or during a game. Don't pull someone aside to say, what's the issue? Just get everyone to agree, hey, I know there's a problem at the table. Just breathe through it. We'll deal with this midweek.
Yeah.
Right? This will be after the session. We'll try to figure out what's going on. Even if it's 2 people that are actively arguing, one person is standing up, screaming and banging their fist on the table. You as a DM are kind of the referee. And while it's not your responsibility to take care of other people's immaturity, you can say, guys, this is a game. I am calling a 10-minute break for myself and everyone else. Clear the room.
Yeah.
Back in the room in 10 minutes. Everyone leave. Go sit in your car. Go sit in the living room. Go stand in the kitchen. If you got smokes, smoke them. Right? Like, whatever it is, everybody walk away. Breathe. 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll meet back here at whatever the 10-minute mark is, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I've only been at the table a handful of times in multiple decades of playing where that has been as far as it's gotten. Usually the DM has pulled that player aside, but separately.
But I think it's a problem to do it during the session. That's not what you use those 10 minutes for.
100% agree with you.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. This is because usually these problems take several weeks to build to the point where someone is pointing and screaming. Right? And you're exactly right. It's rarely the table itself that's causing the issue. It's outside influences. It's a different issue that is influencing this issue. Do it separately first.
You're right. And it's just not... The reason that it's not the right time to do the table is because when emotions flare, people go into that stress state of mind, that fight or flight, is your DNA down to the core is saying kill that person. Mm-hmm. And you're not listening at that point because, that's why people get road rage because of all that stuff. So that's why it needs to be done. It needs to be done separately, but just understand that it's not a problem player. It's a personality clash and there's a reason why. Yeah. And that's what you need to get to.
I would also want to encourage, if you are refereeing a situation like this, I want to encourage gentleness and sincerity. If you are going to be coming at someone who's clearly perturbed by something, aggressive about something, coming at them with gentleness, or coming at them with like-minded aggression, or coming at them with ultimatums or something else like that, will only exasperate the issue and make it worse. If you come at them with gentleness and sincerity and be like, hey, just understand where we're coming from with this, it'll help diffuse that situation a lot better. Now, I do want to ask, what do we do with problem DMs?
Yeah.
What happens when the referee...
We'll get to that. Was that your answer?
That was my answer, yeah.
One last thing I want to put on, Dan, which complements exactly what you just said there, piggybacking off you, is you said gentleness and sincerity. And really you talk about controlling the situation, controlling the conversation. What I think people need to do, which does not happen enough with a lot of people, is they do not adapt to people. If you're trying to control a situation, you need to adapt to them. If somebody is very elevated and getting frustrated, I'm not saying do that. I'm saying, but don't, hey, champ, what's going on?
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Well, that's why he said sincerity.
Yeah.
Right? And I think there's a third part that you missed on that, Dan. Gentle, sincere, and firm.
Yeah.
Right? Look, I am sorry that you feel that way. And I legitimately am upset because I want everyone around the table to have a good time. But now is not the time to deal with this. Hard stop.
Yeah.
We will deal with this, I promise you that. But we're not going to deal with it now. Hard stop. Right? And I say the word hard stop. Actually, right? There are some people that I've played with that have been like, yeah, I fucking hate that talk. Right? Because I have given them that talk on a couple of occasions. I'm like,
Yeah, well, I think you've DM'd for so long, though. Like, I really listen to what you say on that stuff because you've seen it. You've seen it.
God, yes, absolutely.
And like you DM long enough, you will recognize the warning signs and be able to nip it more and more in the bud.
So here's my answer. As I go last, and I wanted to kind of attack it from a different perspective. A lot of the argument that I've heard over the years as to why people are clashing at a table is, and you guys will recognize this, it's what my character would do.
Oh, fuck that.
So a lot of times we sit back as DMs and we try to get the players themselves to step away from their character and to see that they're affecting everybody else negatively, or at least not in the way that they want to, because they're trying to be honorable to their character. And we sit here and we say, be honorable to your character's wants and needs, but also keep in mind that everyone else at the table wants this and this and this. So it's a balancing act, and it is. But I'm sorry, if you have a group of dwarven clerics and everyone's agreed to do that, and then 3 months in, one person drops out and you bring in someone else and they bring a half-elf rogue, there's a clash there. And so I think the problem is not with the player. I think it's with player expectations and why they built the character they built when they did it. And here's my solution. Address it at the table after you've spoken to the player. First, you talk to the player and you say, your character is great. You are doing everything right and you are honoring their wants and needs. Your character does not belong in this story. It's the wrong story for this character.
Yeah.
Save that character. Hold on to them. And I promise you we will come back to them. What are the common denominators of the rest of the party? Whether it's attitude, race, class, it's all martial or it's all spellcasters. Whatever it is, right? And you can have a little twist on it. You can be unique, but hit those points and bring a new character for next week. And then you start off next week's session with saying, hey, in the middle of the night, the rogue up and fucked off.
Yeah.
We're going to introduce a new character. That rogue is still out there, and we are going to get back to him in the next campaign or one-shot or mini-series or whatever it is. We're coming back to him.
You also do a thing where you kind of chain campaigns as well, and a lot of the player characters and NPCs from previous campaigns will affect and show up in subsequent campaigns.
Fuck. It's also exacerbate, but I held my mouth on that.
What did you
All
say?
right. You said subsequent. Exasperate.
I messed up. I think I meant to say earlier on, I meant to say expectedly, and I said expectantly, I think.
Yeah,
I tried to roll up for it. I was like, the internet's going to hear that.
But you really need to... I did want to bring up this one thing as well. There comes a point where your player is not going to want to roll a different character, and their character could still fit in the campaign, and rolling a new character is not an option. There comes a point where, as a player, you need to sit back and be like, listen, we're around a table full of people who are just trying to have fun. This is what my character would do. Decisions are clearly affecting everyone at the table. There comes a point where you just stand back, shut up, and do something as a player. It might be counter to your character, but whatever. Move on through it.
Right, but if you're dealing with a quote-unquote problem player, the problem player is not able to do that. So if it's the character. And I cannot think of a single reason why someone can't roll a new character. Mm-hmm. I don't give a shit if this is a favorite thing you've ever done in your life, if this is the character that you have in every campaign, Oscar. But if we're doing a political intrigue campaign, don't bring Oscar to the table. And if you do, and it blows up, and you've decapitated the bad guy at the beginning of the first session. You burned down the palace in the second session, and everybody else is sitting there in the third session going, what the fuck are we doing? Why did I bother?
Yeah.
Right? Then Oscar needs to go have some highfalutin adventure somewhere else.
Yep.
Right? And that's just, and you cannot convince me that everyone else needs to change for one player. Like I say, common denominator.
Well, that's where we're saying get to the why. Okay, so why are you doing this? What my character do? Okay, but if it's bothering everyone else, why are you doing it? Because it's fun for me. Okay, so is it more important to you that you are having 100% of the fun, or that everybody is sharing the fun?
Exactly.
Look, I have fun a million different ways. I have fun watching different TV shows. It's the same. I'm still sitting there watching TV.
Yeah.
But they are just vastly different shows, right? I get something different out of Game of Thrones than I do out of Rick and Morty, for example, right? But I'm still having fun with both. Why are you married to your half-elf rogue?
Yeah.
What is your problem with your tabaxi fighter, right? Like, it's the same thing over and over. Well, my Kenku only says these 3 words. Man, I get that, and that's rad. Save it for a one-shot. I love that for a one-shot.
That is one. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But if it doesn't work for this group, because it's a political intrigue campaign, and you got 3 words you can use, then it's not.
What is this, Inglorious Bastards? You speak the third best Italian? What's going on?
Buongiorno.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would agree and echo those statements. A lot of this is stuff you're going to talk about in your session 0, but you have mentioned before, Terry, in this episode, too, if someone's coming in the middle of a campaign, or this is a new development in the middle of a campaign, there's nothing saying you can't pull this person aside and have these discussions with them. Get them to roll a new character. Get them to understand why rolling a new character is a better option than just trying to push through this.
Yeah. And I think I'm making the assumption that the why is that because they want to play this character, and this is the most fun character that they could create at the time. And now it's your job as a DM to say, that's a great character, but look at this great campaign and what fits better in here, right? Mm-hmm. And then you need to come up with all the different aspects of this campaign that may be interesting to them. That is not Thieves Guild, right?
Yeah.
Or Lawful Good Paladin, or, Lawful Stupid, right? Like, what can you add? Oh, I just always wanted to play a Dwarf Cleric. And you've been waiting for 6 years to do this? Can you wait another 4 months? Yeah. Right? Yeah. This is not the end of the world.
Yeah,
I mean, unless it literally
in 3 weeks we'll take a break. We'll run a one shot so you can scratch the itch on that. Bring that character then, and then we'll jump back in.
And I'll do everything in my power to not murder that character. You can bring him back in future one shots or future campaign. Like, you as a DM have the ability to sit back and nip these problems by looking at the concept of why and realize that it's not just why, but also why now.
Yeah,
right. And why them and why here and understand that everyone around the table is working together to a common goal, and that common goal is not Terry's fun.
Yes, it is. No,
those are the people under the table. We almost had a PG episode.
Oh,
almost. We were close.
But anyway, what did you ask? You said,
what about problem DMs next?
All right, yeah. Do we want to roll on that?
Yeah, let's do it. I was looking forward to throwing that twist into the question. 7.
15.
Trick shot. Dan got a 15. Dan rolled it off 2 edges and then it dropped in. Adam got a 19.
I just opened my fist above it and it fell onto a 19. What do you do with problem DMs? No such thing. I've never had that problem. What do I do with problem DMs is I usually wait until the campaign is over by about 3 months and then I rip them a new one. that is traditionally how I've poorly handled that.
Adam makes fun of the DM
behind his back. I will
start to his face in the podcast medium.
No, with the problem DM, what's the problem? Like, there are a couple of things. One of them is my precious story.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
One of them is
I win.
Yeah. One of them is I win, and one of them is I've got my significant other, best friend, brother, father-in-law, whatever it is at the table. I'm catering to that one person.
Yeah.
And nobody else.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, there are some problem DMs out there, and I think that, very simply, you don't have to be at their table.
I think it's easier when it's the other way around, isn't it? I mean, you can. It all still comes down to a why. There is a why, and you kind of give the main ones there. But who went first? Adam, you're going first. So I won't interrupt you. Go on. I know you're in the middle of making a point there.
Oh no, like that's it. Again, you need to know what it is and why. You are not going to convince, if Dan is playing with his, I'm going to say father-in-law, right, and he's really laying it on thick for that guy, and I'm getting zero attention over here. Man, I'm not going to change Dan's mind on that. I can bring it up a little bit, but if his father-in-law is breathing down his neck enough that he's got to do this, then fine, I'll put up with this for a couple of weeks and then move on.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to give Dan a heads up, hey, you're going to have to replace me. I've got, I don't know, work shit.
Yeah, and even, I mean, that's
Right.
like a kind of, it's always like the easier way out, work's busy or whatever, but I think leaving a game doesn't have to be beef. You know, it doesn't have to be...
It shouldn't be.
Life just gets in the way.
Just be like, you know what, man, people play D&D in a lot of different ways. You always talk about you have a very tactical type group, and you know that's probably not going to fit my style.
No.
It doesn't mean... fuck Dan's group, fuck these guys, they're the other band, the Beatles and the Stones. Like, it doesn't have to be like, it's just, that's not my kind of game. Hey man, I tried it out. I love what you're doing here. I don't really think it's my type of D&D. So, I'll finish off this session and whatever, and that'll be it from there.
Yeah, and honestly, okay, so my answer is how do you deal with the problem, DM? Is you talk to them between sessions, and you say, here's my basic issue. Same thing, be a fucking adult.
Yeah.
Right? Here's my basic issue.
Because it's a game, so calm down.
and it is okay that you are doing what you're doing this way and this way. I don't understand why. What can we do to work together to resolve this issue? A lot of times, you're going to find that the DM is looking at the other players around the table and trying to cater to them for whatever reason, or he's catering to himself. If he's catering to other players, then he will make the room to cater to you. If he's catering to his own my precious story, or I need to win, you're not going to fix that.
No. And that's when you graciously, sincerely, humbly, and all of that, but firmly say, I think it's time for a different campaign.
I wouldn't even, no. I'll say, hey, you know what? When the next campaign comes up, give me a call. I'm not in for this one. I'm sorry. No. Your story sounds great, and I'd love to read your novel. But I am not a human prop for you to move around the table.
Yeah.
Right? And that's just what it comes down to. And I've walked away from campaigns. I walked away from Dan's Friday campaign. Right? But for personality clash reasons, I was not getting along with the DM. And I have no interest in ever going back because it's not the kind of game that I want to be in.
No.
Yeah.
Right? And that's fine. I don't hold a grudge about it. But I don't want to... Man, if I want to play tactics, I'll play chess.
Yeah.
Right?
There's more important things than starting beef over something. That's such a first world problem to create a beef over a game, you know?
I don't know, man. Tell that to Brazil and soccer.
Oh, fuck Brazil.
Sorry, football.
I was going to say, because my Friday group, which we've talked a lot here, and that's not saying that they're a problem group.
They're just a very different group.
They're a different group. But we have essentially been playing with the same group of guys for decades. And there have been times when one of my buddies, who I love and cherish dearly, have sat up and said, hey, I'm actually going to run the next campaign. We're like, sweet, cool. What's it about? Oh, it's super political intrigue. Like, this was 20 years ago, and he had just finished reading, like, the first 2 books of Game of Thrones. He was all like, I want to do the super political intrigue. And we're all like, I mean, no one else is going to DM, so sure, let's give it a try.
Yeah.
We got 3 sessions in, and all of us hated it. So we all had to kind of sit back and be like, listen, I know you've got this thing that you really want to do. It's not for us. Keep building it, but you're going to need to find another group for it because it's not going to work with us. And if you approach it like an adult, approach it with some maturity, like we did with my buddy, we're going to move on to the next campaign. The other option is if you are a player and your DM is someone who clearly wants to be playing the game and has made it clear that they would rather be a player than a DM, step up, try DMing. I don't understand why you can't be like, listen, I understand you're not having a good time with it. Can we sit down, talk about what your storyline is, and I could try to take it over, or we could start something new. Let's try to work this out. It's all about approaching each other with humility and being open to maybe putting yourself out on the line to run that table.
A lot of people aren't going to do that.
I know a lot of people aren't,
very
but it's
intimidating.
An option.
Yeah,
it's very intimidating. I agree. It's an option, and I wish more people would be confident enough to do that.
Yeah.
And I hear you giving permission to people, like, hey, step up and offer. That's what Terry did when you started DMing for
Yeah, it did not go unnoticed that you said my first game of D&D I ever played, I was DMing.
Yeah, but also like the second game you ever played, you'd had this one little crazy campaign, and you got thrown Curse of Strahd with a week's amount of prep, right? And then you handed it off to me, and you're like, hey, so we're wrapping in like 2 weeks. Adam, you have a thing ready. I'm like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah. That was when all of the lessons, all of the advice I give to people on this podcast, I did not have those tools back then.
No.
I had no idea. Like, people were like, how long's the campaign going to be? And I was like, I don't know. Like, when does it start?
Like, I think it's 280 pages.
Yeah. Fuck, I don't know.
So,
Yeah. Terry, what do you think?
I mean, I think we covered the bulk of it there for me. I think the big thing I'm trying to drive home for problem DMs is you have options. It doesn't have to become a beef. Remember, this is a first world problem. Okay, this is that your game is not going well, and I think we live in such a. I'm a bit of a no drama llama. Like, I just don't get involved in that type of like beef and stuff. Like, there always seems to be people out there that are just always having drama. I'm like, how the hell does that happen? I just seem to have no drama all the time. And I just think, like Adam said, just be an adult about it. If you're not enjoying the game, it's easy. Just leave that game. Just go and find one you're going to like. We have the internet now. They're out there. So many people playing this. Just don't make it an issue. You can just quietly, graciously leave. And that's it. And still hang out with your friend who's the DM at the weekend. It's fine.
the other thing I want to bring up, look, I agree with all of that.
Yeah.
Everything that you said was on point. This seems like a no-brainer to me, but I feel like some people have issues with their DMs. And you go to the r/RPG horror stories, right? And it's just full of edgelord players and my story matters more than you DMs, right?
Yeah.
That's the big one that I hear about and I read about more than anything else. As a DM, I just want to say really quickly, your story is great and shit, but that's not why you're here. Mm-hmm.
You're not here to write a novel.
No, I encourage you to go write a novel. As a matter of fact, if you've got a badass idea, send me a message. I would be happy, personally, I would be happy to listen to it. Check me out on Instagram, at Rusty Styrofoam. Tell me your novel idea, and I'm going to be all over it. But keep that shit off your table.
Yeah.
Right? If you've got a really cool mechanic you want to try out, put it in a campaign that already exists. If you've got a homebrew world, like I personally do, I wrote an 80-page Bible. I went deep dive into mine, right? And at no point was it supposed to be about me. It was, I build a world and everything's wrong and please fix the world, right? I don't know how you're going to do it. I don't know what it says on your character sheet because I don't give a shit about your character. I also don't give a shit about my story. I give a shit about the setting and the people in it, and here are these problems that I set up before we ever roll dice.
Yeah.
How are you going to fix this?
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll give you impossible odds, but how are you going to fix it?
Yeah.
Right? And I'm very hands-off gaming. I've got 6 sessions left in my campaign. We've got to level twice in that time. I kind of know what direction we're heading in, but I don't prep anymore. My prep work has been done.
Yeah.
I need to know what map to draw, but that's it. I already know where the bad guys are, what they're doing, what they're up to. It's up to you guys to do it, and I am now reacting to the players.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's a lot scarier, but it's a lot more fun as a DM. So that's...
So a certain freedom. Yeah. Right. I've felt that before.
And I mean, if the players turn around and say, you know what, fuck it, we're walking off into the sunset, we're not finishing this, all right, then the world ends.
Then that's how the campaign is.
Sure.
And it will be spectacular.
And it will be spectacular, and you will all die in a fiery blaze of horror.
Yeah.
However, that's what you guys decided to do. You knew what the stakes were, and you walked away.
Yeah.
Right? Dan, you told a story on the podcast not long ago about a Shadowrun campaign where a guy decided to just nope out.
And fuck off right before the final boss, yeah.
Yeah, and like, man, fine, go do that, but let your DM know ahead of time that you're not having fun. Like, how did it get to this point?
Yeah.
Right? If you have a problem DM, he's probably been going off unchecked for a while.
I think, lots of times these things, it's not a D&D problem, it's a people problem, isn't it? People say, oh, well, I can't walk away from the game because, the DM's my brother and blah, blah. No, that's not D&D problem, man. I can't help you. That's people. You know?
Yeah, that's your problem with your brother.
Yeah.
You can't walk away because your brother is DMing, then maybe you need a better relationship with your brother.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's not what we're here for.
No.
So, final thoughts. Anyone want to put any final thoughts in before we wrap this sucker up here?
No, man. I mean, negotiating the politics of a table is always going to be case by case, where we can only kind of offer general suggestions.
I recommend a dictatorship.
I would not recommend a dictatorship.
Probably communism.
Yeah,
Communism. Everybody gets
everybody
equal amount of
gets equal
XP. I suppose it kind of is like that.
but like we offer generalities, and you kind of gotta. You're still giggling with dictator, right?
Penis potato.
But you just got to be aware of your table and be attentive to your table. I mean, ultimately, you guys might not all be friends. You could be sitting inside of a game store for the first time playing with a bunch of people who you've never met before, all around the table. You've got to be aware, got to be attentive of the table, and talk it out. Be adults. Ultimately, be adults. Talk to each other like adults. Have some respect for each other, because you're all out there playing a game. And ultimately, like you said, Terry, this is a first world problem that blows out of proportion way too much.
It is. You're right. All right, well, that's it for this week's episode on Party Politics. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube, as well as dozens of other podcast apps. You can also find us at www.itsamimic.com or email us at info@itsamimic.com. Thanks for listening to the It's a Mimic podcast, and make sure to check us out next week when we are covering, are you ready? Red Dragons!
Rouge Sky Lizards.
You ruined it, Dan.
Yeah.
Oh, did I?
Also, the color comes after the noun, but never mind.
Sky Dragons Rouge?
No, dry Skagens. That's what you said, and we're sticking with it.
Dry Skagens.
Damn it!
Thank you for listening to It's a Mimic. Check us out online at itsamimic.com or on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Have questions you would like answered by the guys on the show? Send them an email to itsamimic@gmail.com. Tune in every Tuesday for more.
So we talked the entire episode about, whether or not people are happy around the table, how to keep them happy, DMs and players and so on and so forth. What was the most fun that you guys had at D&D? When you think of D&D fun, the time that you laughed the most or was the most fulfilling, or what was the thing that made you guys the freaking happiest playing? Where you sat there and went, you know what? This was the best shit I've ever done in my life.
I have to go through...
like 20
decades of D&D to find like that one moment. So I will go last.
What's the thing that comes to your head first, right?
Way back in the day, I think I've mentioned this in the podcast. I might not have, but we ran a carnival games session where our characters, and I was still in high school when I did this. Our characters ran a local regional carnival event for the village that we were around, and the one thing I remember was we had a greased pig catching contest where we released a greased pig into the pen, and then based on a skill challenge, you catch it. And my character got in there, and this is way back in the days of 3.5, and rolled 3 natural 20s in a row as the first person that walked in. So I walked in, they released the greased pig, I picked it up and handed it back to them, and they're like, what the hell? And it broke the rest of the session. We were just...
Because it was just never supposed to happen.
It was just never supposed to happen. And that entire session, I have fond memories of it. Us doing strongman competitions and eating competitions and athletics and acrobatic competitions, with just the other players and NPCs that we'd grown fond of in the campaign up until that point. It was a great session. And no combat. 0 combat. The entire session. It was just lots of fun.
Love it. I think for me, I've had so many good experiences playing D&D now, but I think back to the first ever time I played Dungeons & Dragons, which was not necessarily my favorite time. I think just most memorable because it truly cemented the game for me. I was DMing, it was just a one-shot, and I was playing for a table full of people we never played before. Nobody at the table had any idea how to play Dungeons & Dragons. We were making up. I didn't understand how spell slots worked. I just said, here's 5 spells I found in the book, you can do them all twice. Let's go from there.
That works. Hey, it works.
And it was just a one-shot of where I was kind of leading these people on this, railroady adventure, get over the cavern, couple of frost giants. For some reason, there's a red dragon on the side of Tundra Mountain, whatever. I didn't know. I'll make it up later why it's there. And it was just so good because I came out after that session. We played for about 8 hours. We were so hammered. One person just left the table because they were just like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I can't be this person anymore. I have to go and lie down. Okay? We didn't know. Obviously now we play a much more respectful game than that.
I don't know. Sometimes like at hour like 6 of playing in one of Adam's sessions, I'm like, I need to lie down and process.
Yeah.
What the hell is happening?
Dan lays down and does some black tar heroin. Just
But it was like the first time I'd ever felt that joy, and I was like, where is this been? Why is nobody talking about this? This is hilarious. It's so good. We were so, even in a one shot, so like emotionally invested in things, and I think it just paved the way for the rest of D&D for me. So that's probably my most memorable time, because I won't forget that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Adam?
We ran a session
You killed somebody, I imagine.
No, we ran a session, and it was the second last session that we had friends in town for, and they're moving away. We talked about Jess and Jamie occasionally.
Yeah.
And the second last one, not the big cliffhanger where big cut scene and it all went to hell and everybody was all like, "This is the deepest, darkest, most brutal cliffhanger."
Oh, I thought it was awesome.
Oh, I had a good time.
I had a great time.
Dan yells at me still and throws shit across rooms at me about it, but
No, there's a litany of things. There's a list of reasons now. It's not just that.
But no, the episode before that, Dan, you weren't there, and it was just the four of the players again, right? The original group of people that have been working on this, because you'd only been there a couple of months at that point, just new into the campaign, and so I
even came onto that campaign knowing
that they were going to leave, and you were going to take
and
their place,
things were
right?
wrapping up, and that I needed to take a more like side role. So
Yeah. And so we sat down and we played a session that started off in this big, heavy, dark campaign where we're gearing up to the end, where you guys came upon an anthropomorphic corgi. Do you remember that, Terry?
Corgi? What does anthropomorphic mean?
It was walking on his two hind legs. And
yeah.
He was a corgi, and he was standing outside of a portal, and he was essentially a paladin, but he was an anthropomorphic corgi who was just like, "What ho, stay where you are, citizens." And you guys killed him. Because he was a lawful good character. And
Did I kill him?
Yes. I don't know if you got the killing blow, but you definitely beat the holy hell out of this small dog.
Splendid.
Yeah. and then jumped through the portal, and they were sitting there protecting people for what was coming through this portal. And you guys jumped through the portal, and you're deep in the woods late at night, and you're walking by yourself, and there were all of these bits and pieces of bodies that were strewn about, and they looked like they'd been half chewed on, and there was this quick moving creature through the trees, and you came out of the forest, and you were on the path, but then you were getting lost, and so you came out of the forest, and you were approaching kind of a cliff area, and there was all of these holes in the ground where there had been this big battle, and the holes themselves were bottomless pits, and you could see that there was a cabin beyond on the edge of the cliff.
Shit! I know where I was trying to piece together what you're talking about.
And you guys were heading in that direction, and then a bunch of Warforged stood up and fought you guys and said, "Halt, citizens, you cannot go any further." And then you guys fought the Warforged and went into the cabin, and there was a crystalline human skull sitting on the top of the roof looking down at everybody. And they walked in, and they fought. There was this cannibalistic human-looking creature that was sitting down sharpening an axe, right? And he brandished a knife. And you guys...
Did you figure it out? Because we didn't.
No. I just remember what this is about now.
Yeah, and you guys had gone into the world where you fought actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
But I dropped holes and transformers in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull on you guys, and you didn't pick up on it. But it was the monk that knew the kung fu that actually used the kung fu moves like in the song to like knock his head off and decapitate him. And like it was so funny the way that it all played out. And none of you knew what it was, what we were playing. And so at the very end, when you came back through the portal and you got through, I pulled up my phone and I hit the song and I played it for everybody, and the look of just utter defeat on everyone's
You dropped
face.
so many clues. Like, it wasn't even the Warforged Transformers. You were like, and standing in front of you, brandishing a knife. Just like,
and I just directly saying words out of the song, right, and quoting it directly. And you guys had all been talking about this song like it was the best thing ever. Like 4 weeks beforehand. Adam, can we play this? No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm prepping this in the background, right? And then I dropped it and you guys had no idea.
No.
And to me, still, that, from a DM perspective, was the most fun I've ever had. Waiting for you guys to clue in, and in this cliffside kingdom of misery, there's the crystal skull. On the Crystal. Fuck. All right. So
No, it's pretty even Stevens out here. Like, just no idea.
yeah,
I had no idea.
I just kept doing it, right?
Yeah.
And so I had a lot of fun. And the look on everybody's faces at the end was like, I can't believe this just happened. So that was...
When he was sharpening his knife, did he stand up and pull the bag off his head that says, I'm an artist?
No, that hadn't happened yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, no, but that was, I think, the most fun that we...
Yeah.
At the end, when they defeated him, I stood up and clapped slowly. Nothing. I got nothing. So it was so funny from my perspective. And I was the only one in on the joke. So anyway, that was the most fun that I ever had
Great.
D&D session.